Now, Meghan is fiercely fighting to have this case tossed, hoping that the judge will dismiss it without a trial.
Imagine the royal world turned upside down in a single moment. Prince Harry, frozen in disbelief, as a courtroom revelation sends shockwaves through the monarchy. A 21-year-old woman, claiming to be the daughter of Joe Giuliano, has stepped into the spotlight with jaw-dropping evidence that threatens to expose Meghan Markle's most closely guarded secret: hidden documents, a mysterious past, and a marriage long buried in silence. This isn't just gossip, it's a potential scandal of royal proportions. Buckle up, because what's coming next changes everything. The courtroom pulsed with a strange, unnerving tension, the kind that sinks deep into your bones when something earth-shattering is about to be revealed. It wasn't just a trial. It felt like the truth itself was on trial. Prince Harry, known for maintaining calm, even under the harshest public gaze, looked visibly shaken, sitting rigid on the wooden bench. His pale fingers clenched the edge tightly, his eyes locked in disbelief on the witness stand, where what he saw threatened to change everything he thought he knew. Standing under the courtroom lights was a young woman, 21 years old, her face a mix of determination and hesitation. She had introduced herself as the daughter of Joe Giuliano, a name unfamiliar to many. But now at the center of a brewing storm, her presence alone stirred murmurs across the gallery. But when she began to speak, her words hung in the air like smoke, thick, inescapable, and charged with consequence. "I know this is difficult to believe," she said, her eyes locking with Prince Harry's. "But my father, Joe Giuliano, was married to Meghan Markle. They were married in the United States years before she met you." A silence deeper than before followed. Even the judge, who had maintained a firm and composed exterior, couldn't hide the flicker of curiosity in his gaze. Meghan Markle, a royal duchess, a former actress, a global symbol of modern royalty, secretly married to another man before Harry, and not just a casual relationship, but a legally binding union that, according to this young woman, had never been properly annulled or dissolved. The courtroom collectively held its breath. The witness claimed she had found a U.S. marriage license among her father's old personal belongings. Not a rumor, not a tabloid headline, but a document. A piece of legal evidence that, if proven genuine, could send shockwaves through not just the royal family, but the public perception of the couple's entire relationship. The prosecutor, but intrigued, stepped forward. "You're saying there's a marriage license showing that Meghan Markle was legally married to your father?" he asked. "Yes, Your Honor," she replied, visibly emotional. "I saw it with my own eyes. It was issued here in the United States. To the best of my knowledge, that marriage was never annulled or ended through the courts." A stunned gasp spread through the courtroom. Despite the judge's attempts to maintain order, Prince Harry sat as if struck. His expression was blank, yet betrayed a complex storm of confusion, betrayal, and heartbreak. Meghan, sitting a few seats behind him, looked dazed. Her hands clasped tightly, lips trembling, her usual composure slipping with every second. What made this moment even more devastating was its timing. It was May 25, and just as Harry and Meghan seemed to be settling into a peaceful life in Montecito, California, far from the palace walls, this revelation dropped like a bomb. The fairy tale narrative they had built, the fresh start, the freedom from royal duty, the sunlit life with their children now hung in the balance. The courtroom remained heavy with silence, as though everyone present had forgotten how to breathe. Moments earlier, a young woman's shocking statement had thrown Meghan Markle's marriage into question, and now the weight of her words pressed down on everyone inside. As May 2025 continued to unfold dramatically, the courtroom in Los Angeles had become the center of a global storm. Continuing her testimony, the witness explained that the alleged marriage between her father, Joe Giuliano, and Meghan had been conducted discreetly. No grand ceremony, no witnesses from the press, and more importantly, no public records that would easily link it to the now Duchess of Sussex. According to her, the paperwork was filed under names that didn't directly match Meghan's identity, making the union all but invisible until now. But what truly shocked the courtroom wasn't just the claim that Meghan had a past marriage. It was what that might mean. If the marriage had never been legally dissolved, if Meghan was even technically still married to Giuliano when she married Prince Harry in May 2018 at St. George's Chapel, Windsor Castle, the legal and royal consequences could be catastrophic. The marriage to Prince Harry might be considered invalid. The titles she carries could be questionable, and the position of their children Archie and Lilibet, the royal line of succession, suddenly unclear. The judge, who had maintained composure until now, leaned forward, eyes narrowed and intrigued. He formally requested to examine the documents in question. The prosecutor, clearly aware of the gravity of the situation, nodded and asked for the evidence to be brought forward. All eyes turned as the court bailiff carefully approached the judge's bench with a sealed envelope. You could feel the anticipation in the air as he handed it over. Every movement seemed to stretch in slow motion as the judge opened the seal and began flipping through the papers. The courtroom was suspended in near silence, the kind that only comes when everyone is collectively holding their breath. Outside, the scene was no less dramatic. Media crews packed the courthouse steps, camera flashes blinding, microphones shoved toward anyone exiting the building. Headlines raced across screens, royal marriage under fire, and explosive claims, rock Harry and Meghan. On social media, hashtags like #Meghan, secret marriage, and #royal scandal began trending within minutes. Opinion wars broke out online, with some rushing to defend Meghan, suggesting a simple mistake or long-buried personal pain, while others accused her of manipulation and betrayal. Back inside, Prince Harry looked deeply troubled, his head bowed, shoulders heavy under the weight of uncertainty. Meghan sat beside her legal team, visibly tense. Her lawyer leaned in close, whispering urgently across the room. The prosecutor stood still, waiting for the judge's reaction. This was a major legal victory for Meghan in her privacy and copyright infringement case against Associated Newspapers. After several minutes of scanning the papers, the judge looked up. His voice was steady, but every word added fuel to the fire. The document presented does resemble a marriage license issued in the United States, he said, and it is dated approximately 5 years before Meghan Markle's wedding to Prince Harry. However, we must authenticate it through official channels before making any determination. Gasps echoed through the gallery. Prince Harry didn't look up. Meghan closed her eyes for a moment, her expression unreadable. Meanwhile, the judge granted the prosecutor's request to summon Joe Giuliano to court for direct testimony. The case, it seemed, had only just begun. But what will Joe Giuliano reveal next? As tension grips the courtroom, keep watching to uncover the shocking truth. The courtroom, still heavy with tension from the judge's last words, settled into a charged silence. All eyes turned to the side door as it creaked open. Joe Giuliano, the man at the storm's center, stepped inside, with the gaze of the world bearing down on him. He walked calmly, head held high, as if this moment had been a long time coming. Flanked by 2 attorneys, he looked neither afraid nor unsure. His expression was unreadable, but his presence alone was enough to silence even the murmurs in the back rows. Prince Harry sat motionless, his face pale, jaw tight, eyes fixed on Giuliano as he approached the witness stand. The image of calm he once carried had unraveled, his red-rimmed eyes revealing the storm within. Meghan Markle was noticeably absent. Her lawyer had informed the court she was feeling unwell, and her delay in returning only intensified speculation. Some whispered that it was a tactic. Others believed the pressure had finally become too much. But no one could deny the gravity of what was about to unfold. Just before the recess, the court had been rocked by the shocking claim of a hidden marriage. Now, the air seemed even heavier with Joe Giuliano in the room. He sat upright in the witness chair, adjusted the microphone, and gave his name for the record. There were no theatrics, no emotion, just a quiet readiness that hinted at truths yet untold. Outside, it was chaos. The Los Angeles courthouse had become a media war zone. Protesters crowded the sidewalks, some holding signs that read "Stand with Meghan," while others demanded answers, shouting, "Tell the truth." Police officers lined the barricades, working to contain a swelling crowd stirred by anger, confusion, and curiosity. Every news channel had gone live, every social feed buzzing with updates. The hashtags had evolved. #Giuliano testifies now trending. Alongside #Meghan marriage mystery. Back inside, the judge called the session to order. We will now proceed with witness testimony as outlined before the recess. Mr. Giuliano, you may begin. His voice echoed across the wood-paneled courtroom, snapping the audience into focused silence once again. Joe Giuliano leaned forward, his voice steady. What I'm about to say isn't easy, but it's the truth. The tension climbed with every word. What would he reveal? Was this a confession, a defense, or something else entirely? Had he once married Meghan Markle in secret years before she ever met Prince Harry? And if so, why had it remained hidden for so long? Harry. With the High Court ruling in her favor without a trial, the Court of Appeal agreed, based on how much of the letter was published. And yet, despite all eyes on him, Joe Giuliano remained composed. The room leaned in, holding its collective breath. The truth, whatever it was about to surface. But what if Meghan's secret marriage turns everything upside down? Stay glued to your screen to see what happens next. The echoes of the past. Giuliano's revelation. Giuliano's single quotes. His voice lingered in the air, like a storm cloud refusing to move. The moment he said the words, "I am the individual who was at one point married to Meghan Markle," it was as though the courtroom had tilted on its axis. Everything, every whisper, every headline, every shocked expression froze in that breath of disbelief. Prince Harry, sitting just feet away, raised a trembling hand to his mouth as if trying to physically block out what he had just heard. The court clerk's oath had seemed routine just minutes before. "Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?" But now that promise echoed with a weight that was far from ordinary. When Joe answered, "I do," It unlocked a chamber of secrets no one was prepared for. The prosecutor's voice, low but clear, stepped closer. Please state your full name and relation to these claims. My name is Joseph Michael Giuliano, he began, and I'm the father of the young woman who testified earlier. I'm also the man who was married to Meghan Markle. The murmurs became a storm. The judge slammed his gavel 3 times, the sharp crack jolting the room back into order. If we cannot maintain order, I will clear this court. His voice was sharp, tinged with fatigue. As quiet settled once more, the prosecutor leaned forward. Mr. Giuliano, can you tell the court when and how this marriage occurred? Joe exhaled slowly. It was in 2010, in California. A small civil ceremony, just us, 2 witnesses, and a justice of the peace. Meghan didn't want attention, she said it was more romantic that way. His eyes darkened as he spoke, remembering a version of Meghan the world never knew. She was brilliant, ambitious, driven. I thought I was part of that journey. And was the marriage ever legally dissolved? The prosecutor asked, cutting through the moment with cold precision. Joe shook his head, the movement slow and deliberate. We drifted apart when she moved to Toronto. I assumed she would handle the legal end of things, but she didn't. His eyes flicked toward the seat Meghan should have occupied. Now, only her lawyer remained, jotting frantic notes, a deep crease forming between her brows. To be clear, the prosecutor continued, his voice sharpening. As of this moment, you believe you are still legally married to Meghan Markle? Yes, Joe said, his voice unwavering. As far as I know, our marriage was never ended. The courtroom exploded at gang gasps, rapid keystrokes from journalists, the hum of live feeds outside. The world was erupting, with hashtag Meghan marriage scandal and hashtag royal reckoning trending within minutes. Prince Harry stared blankly ahead, no longer trying to hide the emotional wreckage on his face. The world he had built with Meghan now seemed to teeter on the edge of collapse. Then came the prosecutor's final stroke. That's why we have these, Your Honor. A thick file was passed to the judge. Its contents claimed to be the original marriage license and proof that no annulment or divorce had ever been filed. The judge, stone-faced, flipped through the papers. His silence was more chilling than any outburst. After several agonizing minutes, he looked up and addressed the court. I will need time to examine this material. This session is adjourned. Until 9 a.m. tomorrow. The room emptied slowly, the weight of uncertainty pressing down on everyone inside. But what if the calm truth shatters everything Harry believed? You won't want to miss this. Beneath the surface, the fallout begins. The judge's gavel landed with a final, resounding strike. Mr. Giuliano, you are to remain available for further questioning, he stated, his tone clipped and heavy with implication. But the courtroom, barely containing itself through the earlier testimonies, now cracked open into full-blown chaos. The moment that gavel echoed through the chamber, it was as if a signal had been fired. Reporters lunged for their phones. News alerts flooded the web, and the buzz outside reached a dangerous pitch. Prince Harry didn't move, not a muscle. He sat there, eyes still locked on the witness stand, haunted by the words that had shattered the illusion of his marriage. Joe Giuliano hadn't raised his voice or delivered his testimony with drama. He had spoken like a man recounting a quiet truth, a part of his life long buried but never erased. And it was that very calmness that made it all the more devastating. Outside the courthouse, on that May afternoon in Los Angeles, pandemonium had taken hold. Satellite trucks lined the sidewalks like an invasion fleet. Protesters and royal enthusiasts clashed under fluttering banners. Some bearing Meghan's face framed with words like truth will prevail. Others, far more accusatory. Police had formed tight ranks to contain the swelling masses, but even they looked uneasy at the storm of anger and confusion now sweeping the nation and far beyond. In newsrooms across the world, editors scrambled to rewrite headlines. Royal crisis unfolds in California courtroom, and Meghan's secret past marriage. That could undo it all. Television screens flickered with live updates, pulling in royal commentators, legal experts, and body language analysts, desperate to make sense of the unprecedented situation. Meghan Markle had, before her name had come up, as a possible replacement for the Californian senator. What did this mean for Meghan's title? Her children's place in the royal line? Could her marriage to Harry be deemed invalid? Inside the courtroom, now, emptying in fits and waves, Prince Harry was still seated. His posture was stiff, arms slack at his sides, his face pale beneath the harsh overhead lights. He seemed unaware of the shifting around him, the guards checking exits, the aides whispering behind their hands, the clicking heels of departing spectators. His lawyer leaned in, murmuring into his ear, but Harry didn't blink. He was elsewhere, deep within his mind, chasing shadows. He thought of the little things, the phone calls Meghan had brushed off, the last-minute trips to the U.S. with no clear explanation, the sudden silences when her early 20s were brought up in conversation. They hadn't seemed like secrets before, but now they played back like clues in a mystery he hadn't even known he was living. A soft tap on his shoulder finally broke the trance. His aide stood beside him, face tight with concern. "Sir, the car is ready?" Harry nodded slowly, rising as if gravity had doubled in weight. Each step toward the door felt heavier than the last. Outside, the crowd erupted. Photographers flashed their cameras like strobes, and reporters yelled his name over the din. A few angry voices rose above the rest, followed by others that called out in support. Police stood firm, linking arms to hold the crowd at bay. The black SUV door swung open just as he reached it, and without a word, he slid inside. The door slammed shut behind him, and at last, the noise faded. Inside the vehicle, the world went quiet, just the soft thrum of the engine and the breath of cool air drifting from the vents. Harry leaned back, eyes closed, trying to steady the storm within. He had known Meghan had a past, everyone did. But never like this. What awaits Harry behind those silent walls? Truth, betrayal, or something far worse? Stay tuned to find out. The echoes through the garden. The silence inside the car lingered long after the courthouse had disappeared behind them. Prince Harry leaned against the cool window, his reflection fractured by the passing light of palm trees and traffic signals. His lawyer sat opposite, still clutching his briefcase, his eyes flicking toward Harry with cautious urgency. "This alleged secret marriage," he began carefully. "The implications are enormous. If it's true, if that certificate is legally binding, it could mean your own marriage is not." His voice was low, almost apologetic, but each word struck like a stone. "There may be grounds for annulment. British legal authorities might." Harry raised a hand, cutting him off. "Not now," he said, his voice strained. "I need to speak to her first. I need to hear it from her." The rest of the ride to Montecito passed in strained silence. The SUV glided past the gates and up the winding drive of the estate just before dusk. The golden California light stretched long shadows across the gravel as the car came to a stop. Harry stepped out slowly, the weight of uncertainty dragging each footstep. Inside the grand estate, it was as though time had paused. The house was eerily quiet. Staff members moved like ghosts, their eyes cast downward, their faces strained with the burden of knowing too much and saying too little. They had seen the headlines, the footage, the photographs, and now the man behind the story had returned. Room by room, Harry searched the living room, the kitchen, the study. Empty his heart thudded louder with each hollow space he passed. Then faint movement drew him toward the garden terrace. There she was. Meghan sat at a glass table overlooking the estate, her back to him, unmoving. Her hair was pulled back, a loose cream dress fluttering gently in the wind. A porcelain teacup rested before her, its contents untouched. The steam had long faded. Harry stopped behind her, fists clenched, throat tight. "Is it true?" he asked, his voice catching in the air. She didn't respond immediately. Then, slowly, she exhaled. "Is what true? Giuliano?" Harry said. "The marriage before me. Is it true, Meghan?" She turned, her expression unreal. "I was young. It was a mistake." "You were married," Harry said, disbelief cracking through his voice. "I thought it was handled," she whispered. "I didn't know it still counted. That piece of paper," he said, stepping closer, "could unravel everything." "I didn't want to lose you," she murmured. "You already have," he replied. He turned and left her there, alone with the wind and the weight of everything unspoken. Inside the mansion, it felt colder now. Staff moved silently, their whispers spreading like cracks in the walls. In the garden, Meghan sat frozen, holding a cold teacup as if it could still offer warmth. But what if everything Harry believed, his marriage, his family, his legacy, was built on a lie? The price of truth. The hush in the room was thick, broken, only by the low hum of distant traffic outside. Meghan's fingers curled tightly around her cold teacup as she sat still, staring into the California twilight. Then came a quiet, knocked until hesitant. She didn't move at first, then steadying herself, she called out softly, "Come in." The door eased open, and Harry stepped through, shoulders slumped with the weight of everything unspoken. His face bore the fatigue of too many sleepless nights, his eyes red-rimmed and tired. He closed the door behind him with a soft click and crossed the room as if each step cost him something. "We need to talk," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. She gestured to the seat across from her. "I'm listening." Harry sat, hands knotted tightly in his lap. "I saw the lawyers today," he began. "If that marriage license is real, if you're still legally married to Giuliano, it changes everything. Our wedding, the kids, their titles." His voice cracked, even their place in the royal line. Meghan's expression didn't waver. "I know," she said. Harry blinked. "You know, I'm handling it," she said flatly. "This is a stunt. Giuliano and his daughter want their spotlight. They're using the press to shake us down. I won't let them take what we've built." Harry's face twisted with pain. "But what if it's true? What if it wasn't an hold? What if our marriage, our family, isn't even real?" At that, Meghan stood, her voice rising. "Do you think I would lie to you? That all of this," she gestured around them, "was fake?" The words stung. Harry shrank back, wounded. I just want the truth. She softened, slowly circling the desk. Her hands found his shoulders. We've survived worse, Harry, she whispered. We'll survive this too. He looked up at her, eyes wide. His voice was barely audible. Promise me we won't lose everything. Her hand found his, warm and firm. We won't, she said. Not if we stand together. And in that fragile moment, the storm outside faded, but Harry's heart still trembled. But what do you think Harry will do now that his whole life is on the line? Will Meghan's secret unravel everything? We'd like to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.